Hello and welcome to This Is. Matt, you have a theory that the fine, wonderful audience who I am dearly and deeply in love with, and I always agree with on all points, is wrong. How dare you make an insinuation like that? Please explain yourself.
First off, way to butter them up so they're on your side immediately. Second of all, yes, I think that most of our audience is 100% wrong about streaming game services. And I'm going to tell you why.
I feel like you just said that for the thumbnail.
You're wrong. You're wrong. I'm going to pull an Austin. You're wrong.
I like it. Okay, what are we wrong about?
So many people just don't understand what streaming game services actually are.
Okay.
Let me start with Stadia.
I have an open mind.
That was the first one, because Stadia has probably the biggest amount of hate that I've ever seen from like a service in recent memory. I bought it with my own money. We have a controller right there, but so many people didn't know what it was, and that's a big. And I'm not saying that they were misinformed. It's because Google did a horrible job at explaining what Stadia was. But a lot of people thought that it was a supplementary service to games they already owned. It wasn't. It was a new console. It was a brand new platform.
I get the idea that Stadia is obviously something different, because when you look at what it was generally compared to, something like Xbox Game Pass, which takes advantage of games that you already have access to through Xbox Game Pass. You don't literally, you could buy an Xbox Game Pass subscription, never pay for a game, never own an Xbox. Like, that's a standalone thing. Things like GeForce Now will take advantage of games that you already own on Steam or whatever the case is. But the idea of streaming games, I think, is a sort of, it's a nefarious one, because I think a lot of people think about it, like you said, as sort of like an add-on, right?
Right.
Like, I have these games, I play them on my PC when I'm at home or my console. When I'm out and about and I want to play on my phone, I'll be able to stream them, but it's not like the full experience.
I'm not going to defend Stadia. Stadia completely dropped the ball. I was super excited for Stadia, and they completely that up. What I am going to say is everything that Stadia did wrong, Xbox and Microsoft are doing 100% right. With the inclusion of now xCloud, you get that this is what people thought Stadia was supposed to be.
So essentially, xCloud is a bunch of Xboxes that are running in the cloud, and it will be streamed to your mobile device or to your PC or to a wide variety of things.
Right now, just Android and PC, no Mac support, no iOS support, which is a bummer.
Well, that's an Apple thing.
Yeah.
So with xCloud, and now it is known as Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, for $15 a month at the moment of recording, so obviously this could change. As of right now, for $15 a month, you get access to a bunch of games for free on PC that are included. You get access to a bunch of games on Xbox. You get Xbox Live Gold. You get EA Play, EA Access, whatever it is.
That's not active yet, but yes, you will.
You will be able to have that.
able to get that.
The main thing is, for this video, you also get access to game streaming. So I have it right here on my Z Flip. You can hook up a controller or something, and essentially what you get.
A bunch of different ways to hook it up.
We do. But basically, the way it works is that all of the games that are available on Xbox Game Pass for Xbox, which is 100, 150. There's a few games, right? But importantly, you can also stream them to your device. So that's, I think, the main difference between what Microsoft are doing with the next generation consoles and Game Pass and everything versus what Sony is doing with, say, PlayStation Plus, which for the PS5, you're going to get a selection of games included, and they do the free games, but it's not the same thing. And certainly on the streaming side, it's not going to give you that same result of that many games. One thing I think to keep in mind is that the line between streaming and subscription stuff, this gets confusing. So streaming games are instant, right? On my phone, I load it up, it will pull it up from server. In fact, I'll open up, I don't know, Shadow of War here, right? So it will launch an instance on the server, it will stream it. However, if I'm on an Xbox, I will actually download that game. So it's running natively. So there's no downside to playing an Xbox Game Pass game on PC or Xbox, because you're just downloading it and running it natively.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions with something like the Series S with no disk drive. So many people think that because it doesn't have a disk drive, that they are streaming the games, and you know, the number one comment is, my internet's not that good, so I can't play those games on the One S, which is just incorrect. Here, yes, you do need a good internet connection for this to work. However, for Game Pass, you still download the full 10, 15, 30, whatever
100
gigabyte.
There's multiple different types of streaming, because you also can stream locally, and that's generally free and included, right?
Like
Steam will do it. You can do it from your graphics card. Xbox and PlayStation will both allow you. So if I have an Xbox, on my Wi-Fi a few feet away, I could also stream it to my phone.
Which is local play.
Yeah.
You're gonna get technical.
Yeah.
Now, so that's where again Microsoft is doing. They're succeeding because they're giving you literally all of it. But I think the key thing right now is that we are in a state of good enough for this to start catching on, and it's only going to get better from here. So you had some trouble playing like Forza.
The thing is, none of these games are perfect when it comes to streaming, right? Like, I think on a phone screen, a lot of like the compression artifacts or any kind of issues are actually kind of fine because you don't really notice it that much. But you do have to keep in mind that you do have to have a good internet connection. Like, it is certainly not perfect. But I think one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that there are so many games that are available on Game Pass, and specifically when you look at Microsoft buying Bethesda. So we were going to have tons of exclusives not only on the Xbox side, but also going to have all those games coming to Game Pass essentially.
So that was the biggest critique of Microsoft and Xbox this generation, is so many people were like, well, who cares who wants to buy an Xbox? There's no good games.
Yeah.
But now, was it $7.5 billion acquisition of Bethesda?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you have some of the biggest franchises in gaming history now that are theoretically exclusive to Xbox. I think they're gonna.
I'm ready for Super Microsoft Bros. Where we have Master Chief and Doom Guy and a brawler. I'm just gonna play that.
Yes, Super Smash Brothers is gonna have a lot of competition. So again, one of the misconceptions is that you have to buy the games on Game Pass in addition to the $15 a month service, because that's what Stadia had. That's not the case with Game Pass. $15 gets you every game on Game Pass.
So with Xbox Game Pass, the games, like something like Netflix, are not guaranteed to be there forever, right?
Correct.
Games do come off of Game Pass.
Right.
You will no longer be able to play them. Now, I do think that when they're coming off, or at any point, you can purchase the games at like a little bit of a discount or something. But regardless, it is one of those things where you don't always have access to these games. So that is one negative. And I think that there are a lot of people who like to either own the physical games or own at least the digital games because that's their game forever. But all that being said, I do think Game Pass makes a lot of sense. I think it's reasonably priced. I think you get a lot of different perks between the streaming, between the ability to play on PC and all the other stuff. I think it makes a lot of sense. I do think that this is sort of the next generation Xbox, right? We've all kind of made jokes about like, oh, the new Xbox is just a Game Pass box. But in a lot of ways, especially the Series S, I think that is absolutely the case. I like xCloud. I like being able to play Game Pass games on my phone, but it is certainly not a perfect experience. The compression and stuff, like I said, like it's fine on a phone because it's a small screen.
It's not made for it, and that's the key to it. Is like if you try and compare it 1-to-1, these are made for let's be real, like a 55-inch TV. So trying to do a lot of people try and do a 1-to-1 comparison on something that's made for a giant TV being scaled down.
Well, the scaling actually I think is helpful. But that being said, there's still latency involved. I still can tell
the latency is really the only hurdle that we don't have a good answer
for. There are
for.
also some audio issues with Game Pass for mobile. From time to time, audio doesn't sound quite right. And honestly, audio is almost as important, if not more so than the video. So like streaming games are in the future. They're usable now, and I think it's a nice add-on. I do agree that the Game Pass model of it is a bonus that you already have with all the other things that you get with your Game Pass subscription is good. I think that something like Stadia was, in hindsight, a real misstep that they were charging you full price for games without giving you that full experience.
The last point I want to make with streaming services is the amount of internet you actually need for this. If you can stream Netflix to your phone, if you can stream YouTube to your phone, you can stream games to it. It's roughly the same size file, like data rate. I think with like Stadia was like at most 35.
It depends. If you're just purely talking about the bandwidth, I agree.
Right.
But it is a little bit more than that because
it's longer.
The latency.
I'm getting a better experience because I'm close to Google's, data centers. I'm vaguely close to Microsoft's data centers.
Essentially, the way it works is when you look at the bandwidth that you need, right? So it's basically like you're watching like a 60p video. But the difference is that YouTube, Netflix, they will buffer video. So if you have a little bit of like a choppy LTE connection, if you can get it enough to like where it will load it in the background, it's fine. Whereas when you're actually doing game streaming, there's no buffer, there's no latency sort of benefit whatsoever. If you go through a tunnel or someone next to you starts downloading something and it cuts your signal off for even like a split second, that means that you lose your game for that split second. That's, I think, the main difference. It's not so much just gonna kill your data cap, which it will, just like watching a lot of 60p video.
Yeah.
But importantly, importantly, that latency and the experience can be impacted very, very easily on mobile.
If they can get smart about how they're buffering this, say, oh, we know he's getting to a cutscene. Just the natural progression of, you know, oh, we're in a zone where a cutscene is ready. Let's buffer that cutscene.
When it comes to the games that you play right now via streaming,
yeah,
like, so Shadow of War right now doesn't know that I'm playing on a phone. Like, it's just an Xbox game that's being streamed.
But if you start developing, and instead of saying, oh, we're gonna build, you know, instead of Microsoft saying we're gonna try and manufacture 10 million consoles in order to be ready for Christmas, they say, oh, we're gonna build a couple more data centers. And that's why I say we're in a good enough spot right now where it's usable. People can get used to it. Yeah. People can start to enjoy it. For a lot of people, I would say don't even bother getting a console, period.
Just get Game Pass by itself?
I would say for a lot of people, and I'm talking casual, I am not talking anything competitive, let me be clear on that.
Yeah.
For $15 a month, there's a lot of really good games that don't, you know, make or break on latency.
I'm sorry, I was too busy playing my Xbox. Yeah.
You got nothing to say. So let me know in the comments how much you think I'm full of shit, as you always do.
This is gonna be bad today, man. This is gonna be bad.
You know what? Like, you guys already hate me, so I'm just gonna go full into it. Let us know. Check out other videos, and we'll catch you in the next time.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this, but thanks for subscribing, and let Matt know that you don't actually hate him. Who could hate a face like that?